Listen closely. The most dangerous moment in a man's life is not when others attack him, but when he protects the version of himself that should have died. You were taught to preserve identity, defend habits, and justify weakness as character. Machiavelli rejected this illusion. Power is born from controlled self-destruction. A man who clings to who he was becomes predictable, manageable, breakable. A man who chooses to burn his former self becomes unreadable. Inside you lives a version that hesitates, explains, seeks permission, and hopes instead of prepares. That version is not evil. It is obsolete. Enemies do not need to defeat you. They wait for you to defend your weakest identity. Rebirth begins with a ruthless decision. Betray who you were to protect who you are becoming. This is not emotion, it is strategy. You do not evolve by adding virtues, you evolve by executing liabilities. On Rhythm, we do not glorify comfort or continuity. We engineer transformation. If this resonates, mark the threshold. Comment, I authorize my rebirth now and feel the weight of choosing death before defeat claims you. Stand still, breathe, and recognize that this moment separates survivors from architects of their own fate forever. If this message shook something in you, stay with me. Subscribe now, because what comes next is not motivation. It's a blueprint for becoming untouchable. Number 2, ruthless self-destruction as discipline. Understand this now. Destruction of the old self is not chaos, it is discipline. Most men think reinvention is about motivation, inspiration, or some dramatic emotional breakthrough. That belief alone keeps them weak. Real rebirth is silent, methodical, and brutal. You do not announce it. You do not seek witnesses. You dismantle yourself in private. Every reaction you used to have becomes a weakness map. Every trigger becomes a blueprint. Every comfort becomes a warning sign. The old you lived on instinct, habit, and borrowed beliefs. The new you must live on calculation. Machiavelli understood that power favors the man who can abandon yesterday without nostalgia. Sentimentality is a chain. Memory is a trap if you kneel to it. Your past identity will beg you to keep it alive. It will whisper that change is risky, that people will judge you, that you might lose what little stability you have. That voice is not wisdom. It is self-preservation of a dying version. When you feel resistance, you are close to transformation. When it feels uncomfortable, you are cutting something vital loose. This is where most men retreat. They mistake pain for danger. In reality, pain is confirmation. The reborn man does not ask, "Who am I?" He asks, "What version of me survives pressure, scarcity, and betrayal?" Then he builds only that. He stops explaining himself because explanation invites negotiation. He stops reacting because reactions reveal leverage. He stops seeking validation because validation creates dependency. On Rhythm, this is the turning point. The moment you stop living as a personality and start operating as a system. Systems do not panic. Systems do not plead. Systems adapt. Once you internalize this, others lose the ability to destabilize you. They can attack your reputation, your history, even your intentions, but none of that touches a man who already buried his former self. You become difficult to read, impossible to corner, and dangerous to underestimate. This is not arrogance, it is insulation. The world cannot destroy what it cannot recognize, and the man who no longer needs to be understood becomes untouchable. Comment, "The old me is finished" below. Number 3, the void after identity. There is a moment after destruction that no one warns you about, the silence, not peace. Silence. When the old self is gone, there is no applause, no clarity, no immediate strength. There is emptiness. And most men panic there. They rush to refill it with old habits, old identities, old coping mechanisms. That is how rebirth fails. The void is not your enemy. It is the forge. Machiavelli understood that power requires tolerance for internal emptiness. The ability to stand without a mask, without a narrative, without needing to be seen as anything at all. This is where real control is built. When you no longer rely on personality, you begin to rely on structure. You choose responses instead of reacting. You design routines instead of chasing motivation. You operate based on outcomes, not emotions. The old self wanted comfort. The new self wants leverage. This shift is subtle but absolute. You stop measuring yourself by how you feel and start measuring yourself by what you can endure without breaking formation. Criticism loses its bite because it attacks a version of you that no longer exists. Praise becomes irrelevant because you are no longer feeding an ego, you are refining a weapon. Most people around you will sense the change before they understand it. They will feel less access to you, less influence, less permission. Some will try to pull the old you back, not out of love, but because your transformation exposes their stagnation. Do not explain yourself to them. Explanation is a rope they can pull. Silence is armor. The man who has destroyed his old self does not need to dominate rooms loudly. His presence carries weight because it is not seeking approval. He has already faced internal death. External threats feel smaller after that. You begin to move differently, slower, colder, more precise. You stop chasing outcomes and start positioning yourself, so outcomes are forced. This is not cruelty, it is clarity. You are no longer living to be liked, understood, or forgiven. You are living to be effective, and effectiveness is what makes a man dangerous in a world addicted to noise and emotion. If you feel this settling into you, if you recognize the discipline forming beneath the silence, mark it. Comment, I am no longer who I was. Number 4. When the mask falls and power becomes quiet. At this stage, something unsettling happens. You begin to see how much of your former life was theater. Conversations were performances, morals were costumes, reactions were rehearsed scripts designed to keep you accepted, safe, and unchallenged. When the old self dies, the curtain drops. You notice patterns others don't want you to notice. You see how power actually moves, quietly, indirectly, through restraint rather than force. Most people believe dominance is loud. They are wrong. Loudness is compensation. The reborn man learns the value of subtraction. He speaks less because every word leaks position. He reveals nothing unnecessary because mystery creates asymmetry. Machiavelli's insight was simple and ruthless. People can only manipulate what they can predict. The moment you become internally independent, externally disciplined, and emotionally non-reactive, you slip beyond their grasp. This is why rebirth frightens others. They lose leverage. They can no longer provoke you into mistakes or guilt you into submission. You stop explaining your choices because explanations invite debate, and debate hands away control. Instead, you let outcomes speak. Results silence arguments faster than justification ever could. Your presence becomes heavier because it is no longer diluted by approval seeking. You are not trying to be impressive. You are becoming inevitable. This transition is lonely. Do not romanticize it. When you stop feeding emotional loops, many relationships starve. Some people only knew how to connect to the old you through drama, dependency, or conflict. When that version is gone, they feel rejected. Let them. Rebirth is not an act of cruelty. It is an act of sovereignty. You are not responsible for how others respond to your evolution. The new self is built on discipline, not validation. You choose long-term position over short-term comfort. You invest in self-command instead of emotional release. You no longer confuse kindness with weakness or silence with submission. You understand timing. You understand restraint. You understand that the strongest move is often no move at all. From the outside, it may look like calm. Internally, it is control. This is why the man who destroys his old self cannot be destroyed by others. They are fighting a ghost. The version they knew no longer exists, and the version that stands before them does not require their permission to move forward. If this resonates with you, acknowledge the shift. Comment, I move in silence now. Number 5. Governing the new self. After rebirth stabilizes, discipline turns inward and becomes law. This is where most men fail again because they believe transformation is finished once pain subsides. It is not. The new self must be governed, or it decays into another comfortable illusion. Power is not a personality trait. It is a daily maintenance protocol. You begin to audit your thoughts with the same cold precision you once reserved for external threats. You ask yourself, what serves position? What leaks energy? What creates dependency? Emotion is no longer suppressed, but it is no longer in command. You allow it to exist without allowing it to steer. This is a crucial distinction. The man who has destroyed his old self does not become numb. He becomes selective. He chooses when to feel and when to withhold. He chooses when to speak and when silence produces greater leverage. He understands that most people broadcast their inner state constantly, turning themselves into open systems that anyone can influence. You close the system. You stop advertising your fears, hopes, and intentions, not because you are hiding, but because exposure weakens structure. Your days become quieter but heavier. You do less, yet every action carries consequence. You stop confusing urgency with importance. You move based on timing, not impulse. This is where the world begins to misread you. Some will assume you are indifferent. Others will project arrogance. Let them. Projection is the price others pay when they cannot access you. The reborn man does not correct misunderstandings unless correction produces advantage. He understands that clarity is only valuable when it strengthens position. Internally, something profound locks into place. Self-respect without audience. You no longer need to be witnessed to feel legitimate. You no longer require applause to confirm progress. This alone makes you resistant to manipulation, because manipulation feeds on need. When need is removed, leverage collapses. You also begin to see temptation differently. Shortcuts, emotional indulgences, and impulsive reactions no longer appear attractive. They appear expensive. Every deviation from discipline has a cost, and you have trained yourself to calculate cost instinctively. This does not make life joyless. It makes joy intentional. You choose reward instead of escaping into it. You choose rest instead of collapse. Over time, others feel this shift. They may not articulate it, but they sense boundaries they cannot cross, lines they cannot blur. This is not dominance through aggression. This is dominance through self-command. Machiavelli's rebirth protocol was never about cruelty toward others. It was about ruthlessness toward one's own weakness. The man who governs himself leaves no opening for external control. He is calm under pressure because pressure no longer defines him. He has already faced internal collapse and rebuilt from structure rather than emotion. That is why attacks glance off him instead of penetrating. That is why chaos around him does not become chaos within him. He has already destroyed the part of himself that could be owned. If you understand this stage, if you feel discipline hardening into identity, confirm it now. Comment, I command myself. Number 6, psychological superiority through endurance. At this depth of transformation, you begin to realize that rebirth is not an event, but a permanent state of vigilance. The old self does not stay dead quietly. It attempts resurrection through fatigue, nostalgia, ego, and comfort. It returns disguised as, you deserve a break, you've done enough, or this version of you is too cold. These are not innocent thoughts, they are counterattacks. The reborn man understands this and responds without drama. He does not argue with weakness. He starves it. He does not negotiate with old impulses. He replaces them with structure. This is where psychological superiority is forged, because most people are ruled by internal inconsistency. They want power, but they live emotionally. They want respect, but they act impulsively. They want control, but they cannot even control their inner dialogue. You are different now. You have learned that inner order precedes outer authority. You no longer chase certainty. You create it through repetition and discipline. Your routines are not motivational rituals. They are psychological armor. You wake up with intent, not urgency. You move through your day aware that every small action either reinforces command or invites decay. Nothing is neutral anymore. Every choice votes for the man you are becoming. This awareness sharpens you. It also isolates you. You start noticing how often others seek emotional discharge instead of resolution. How frequently they confuse expression with power. They talk to feel relieved, not to achieve outcomes. You listen, but you do not absorb. You observe without internalizing. This emotional separation is not cruelty, it is filtration. You have learned that proximity without boundaries erodes strength. So you limit access. Not everyone deserves your attention, your energy, or your inner world. Attention is currency, and you no longer spend it on low-return exchanges. This alone makes you formidable. People sense when they are being evaluated instead of indulged. It unsettles them. They try harder to impress you, to provoke you, to pull a reaction out of you. You give them nothing. Silence becomes your default position, not because you lack thoughts, but because withholding them gives you advantage. When you do speak, it is deliberate, measured, final. You are no longer testing ideas out loud. You have already tested them internally. This makes your words land heavier. Fewer words, more impact. You are no longer building an image. You are building inevitability. The world begins to respond differently. Opportunities come quietly. Threats reveal themselves early. People underestimate you because you do not advertise ambition. Let them. Underestimation is a tactical gift. You have learned that the most dangerous man in the room is rarely the loudest or the most confident looking. It is the man who is internally settled, emotionally insulated, and strategically patient. You now understand patience not as waiting, but as positioning. You wait while others expose themselves. You let them rush while you calculate. You let them speak while you map their motivations. This is not paranoia. It is awareness sharpened by discipline. And with this awareness comes an unshakable calm. Not the calm of indifference, but the calm of preparedness. You are no longer surprised by human behavior. You expect manipulation, envy, and testing. Because you expect it, it does not shock you. Because it does not shock you, it does not control you. This is the final psychological advantage. Shock is how people lose composure. You have removed shock from the equation. You have already confronted your own darkness, your own fear of losing identity, approval, and comfort. There is nothing left for others to threaten you with. You have already walked through internal destruction and rebuilt from principles rather than emotion. This is why external pressure feels manageable now. This is why chaos does not penetrate you. This is why the man who destroys his old self can never be destroyed by others. They are fighting a structure, not an ego, a system, not a personality, and systems adapt, endure, and outlast. If you are truly here, if you recognize this level of control forming inside you, mark it without hesitation. Comment, "I am beyond reaction." Number 7. Positional power and strategic patience. At this point, the reborn man understands something most never grasp. Power is not something you seize, it is something you outlast. While others burn themselves chasing momentum, attention, or dominance, you move with conservation and precision. You have learned that endurance defeats intensity every time. The old version of you wanted to win moments. The new version is built to win decades. This shift rewires how you perceive conflict. You no longer rush to confront, explain, or correct. You allow situations to reveal themselves fully before you act. You have discovered that time is the most merciless interrogator. People expose their motives if you simply let them talk long enough. This patience unnerves those who are used to emotional reactions. They expect resistance, justification, or submission. When none arrives, they destabilize themselves. Silence becomes a mirror in which others are forced to face their own insecurity. You are no longer compelled to dominate overtly because you understand that visible dominance attracts unnecessary opposition. Instead, you practice positional superiority. You place yourself where outcomes naturally tilt in your favor. This requires restraint, and restraint is something weak men interpret as passivity. Let them misunderstand. Misinterpretation shields you. You also begin to see how deeply most people are enslaved to identity. They defend opinions as if defending their lives. They cling to labels, roles, and narratives because without them, they would collapse. You have already collapsed voluntarily. That is your advantage. When you destroyed your old self, you removed the leverage point others rely on. Insults no longer land because they target a version that no longer exists. Praise no longer inflates you because you are not building an ego, you are maintaining alignment. You have stepped outside the emotional economy where most people trade validation, resentment, and attention. This makes you difficult to manipulate and even harder to predict. You begin to choose battles based not on ego, but on asymmetry. If the cost is greater than the gain, you withdraw without guilt. If engagement produces leverage, you enter decisively. There is no hesitation, because hesitation belongs to men who are still negotiating with who they want to be. You are no longer negotiating. You are enforcing standards, internally first, externally second. Your inner dialogue becomes colder, cleaner, and more precise. You stop asking how something makes you feel and start asking what it produces. Feelings are data, not directives. This single distinction elevates you above most men. You also become immune to urgency traps. When others push for immediate answers, reactions, or commitments, you slow the tempo. Control the tempo and you control the frame. You understand that whoever is rushing is already losing position. You let them rush. You let them reveal need. You let them show their hand. Meanwhile, you remain centered, conserving energy, watching patterns repeat. This is not manipulation for its own sake. It is self-defense in a world that preys on emotional exposure. You no longer confuse transparency with honesty. You can be honest without being open. You can be principled without being predictable. This balance is rare, and rarity creates power. Over time, something subtle but undeniable happens. People adjust their behavior around you. They choose words more carefully. They test less often. They sense boundaries they cannot cross. This is not because you threaten them. It is because you do not need them. Independence is the most intimidating posture a man can assume. When you do not need approval, agreement, or permission, others feel it immediately. They may not articulate it, but they feel the absence of leverage. And where leverage is absent, respect follows. Even opposition becomes cautious. You are no longer a target for emotional games because there is no emotional reward in attacking you. You do not react the way they expect. You do not fracture under pressure. You do not chase resolution for comfort's sake. You let situations remain unresolved if resolution weakens your position. This is maturity weaponized. The world teaches men to seek closure. Power teaches men to seek advantage. You now live from that understanding. You have learned that stability is not the absence of threat, but the ability to remain intact while threats pass through your environment. You are not invincible. You are insulated. You are not fearless. You are prepared. You are not detached from reality. You are detached from illusions. This is why the man who has destroyed his old self stands differently, moves differently, and cannot be cornered psychologically. He has already removed the hooks. There is nothing left to pull. If you recognize this level of internal positioning, if you feel the shift from reaction to strategy locking into place, mark it now. Comment, "Nothing hooks me anymore." Number 8, sovereignty without witnesses. At the final stage of rebirth, you stop thinking of yourself as a man moving through the world and start seeing yourself as a force that the world must adjust around. This is not fantasy, and it is not arrogance. It is the natural consequence of internal sovereignty sustained over time. You no longer ask for permission, clarity, or reassurance because your inner structure supplies all three. Where others seek certainty from external validation, you generate it through consistency. This is what separates temporary confidence from permanent authority. The old self needed to feel powerful. The reborn self only needs to function correctly. You understand now that power is quiet because it has nothing to prove. It does not announce itself. It does not posture. It does not rush. It simply exists and reshapes environments by its presence. You begin to notice that situations bend slightly when you enter them. Conversations slow. Emotional volatility drops. People choose words more carefully. This is not because you intimidate them overtly, but because they sense internal alignment. Humans are exquisitely sensitive to coherence. When a man's thoughts, emotions, and actions are aligned, others instinctively defer, even if they do not consciously understand why. You are no longer fragmented. There is no gap between who you think you are and how you behave under pressure. This makes you rare. Most people live divided lives. They present strength, but collapse privately. They speak principles, but act on impulse. You have closed that gap through discipline and repeated self-denial. And now, because there is no contradiction inside you, there is no obvious entry point for manipulation. Manipulation requires confusion. It requires unmet needs, unresolved identity, emotional hunger. You have starved those vulnerabilities without becoming empty. Instead, you have replaced them with structure. You know exactly what you tolerate, what you ignore, and what you eliminate. This clarity allows you to move decisively without anger. Anger is inefficient. Rage burns energy without producing leverage. You have learned to act without emotional noise. When you cut someone off, you do not dramatize it. When you withdraw, you do not explain it. When you advance, you do not boast about it, you simply reposition. This terrifies people who rely on emotional theatrics because there is nothing for them to grab onto. They cannot guilt you, provoke you, or shame you into submission because you are not negotiating your worth anymore. Your worth is no longer a feeling, it is a fact established through behavior. Over time, this creates something stronger than confidence, inevitability. People stop trying to change you, they start adapting to you. This is when you realize that domination is not about forcing outcomes, but about removing alternatives. Others comply not because they are afraid, but because resistance feels pointless. You have become psychologically expensive to challenge. Any attempt to destabilize you requires more energy than most are willing to spend. This is strategic gravity, and with gravity comes responsibility. The reborn man understands that unchecked power corrodes itself. So, he governs himself harder than anyone else ever could. He maintains standards even when no one is watching, especially when no one is watching. He understands that decay always begins in private. This is why his discipline does not relax with success. Success only raises the cost of failure. You are now operating on long horizons. You think in years while others think in weeks. You invest in positioning rather than applause. You accept temporary discomfort to avoid permanent weakness. Comfort no longer seduces you because you understand its price. You have learned that every indulgence either strengthens or weakens your internal hierarchy, and you choose accordingly. This makes you calm in chaos and patient in uncertainty. You do not need guarantees. You create resilience. You no longer cling to people, identities, or outcomes because attachment is the root of psychological vulnerability. This does not make you cold toward life. It makes you precise. You can enjoy without dependence, commit without surrender, and care without losing command. This balance is what Machiavelli understood, but few practice. True power requires emotional regulation without emotional suppression. You feel fully, but you decide soberly. You are present, but not reactive. You are engaged, but not entangled. This is the state from which real influence flows. Others sense that you are not desperate for anything, and desperation is the currency of control. When you need nothing, you cannot be bought. When you fear nothing internal, you cannot be threatened. When you have already destroyed your old self, nothing external can destroy you, because destruction requires attachment. There is nothing left to tear away. You are not invulnerable to pain. But pain no longer dictates your behavior. You are not immune to loss, but loss no longer defines you. You have replaced identity with direction, ego with structure, and emotion with command. This is the final outcome of rebirth. Not domination over others, but sovereignty over self, so complete that others instinctively fall into orbit. If you have truly followed this path, if you recognize this level of internal authority as familiar rather than aspirational, mark it now and seal it by commenting, "I have no old self to return to." Number 9. Self-containment. Power that does not leak. Beyond this point, rebirth matures into something colder and more precise: self-containment. You no longer feel the urge to externalize tension, frustration, or triumph. Everything stays internal, processed, resolved, and stored as usable intelligence. This is where you stop leaking power. Most men bleed energy through speech, reaction, explanation, and emotional discharge. They talk to feel lighter. You stopped needing relief. You prefer density. You allow pressure to accumulate because pressure, when controlled, becomes force. You have learned how to hold it without cracking. This is not repression. Repression fractures. This is compression. You compress experience, extract lessons, and discard noise. As a result, your presence changes again. Not louder, not sharper, heavier. People feel that you are not improvising your life anymore. You are executing it. This creates a quiet authority that cannot be faked. Authority does not come from confidence displays. It comes from internal order sustained over time. You have order now. You have boundaries that do not need to be announced. You have standards that do not require justification. You have a pace that is immune to urgency manufactured by others. When people try to rush you, you slow down. When they demand clarity, you withhold until clarity serves you. When they test you, you let the test expose them. This level of control is unsettling to those who live reactively. They are used to pushing emotional buttons and watching predictable outcomes. You have removed the buttons. There is nothing to press. This forces them into uncertainty, and uncertainty weakens position. You understand now that unpredictability is not chaos. It is strategic ambiguity. You are consistent in principles, unpredictable in expression. This balance makes you difficult to outmaneuver. You also begin to experience a shift in how you relate to solitude. Solitude is no longer a recovery tool. It is a command center. You do your most important thinking alone, away from influence, noise, and emotional contagion. You trust your internal compass because you have calibrated it through repeated self-denial and discipline. This makes you less susceptible to trends, opinions, and collective hysteria. You do not move because others move. You move when conditions align. This is why panic cannot touch you. Panic requires identification with the moment. You identify with direction, not circumstance. When something collapses around you, you assess. You do not dramatize. You do not personalize. You do not spiral. You look for leverage points, exits, and opportunities. This is not optimism. It is realism sharpened by detachment. You see clearly because you are not emotionally invested in illusions. You accept loss faster than most, which paradoxically allows you to lose less over time. Acceptance is speed. Resistance is delay. Delay compounds damage. You do not delay. You act cleanly. You also understand now that morality, like emotion, must be governed rather than abandoned. You are not cruel, but you are no longer naive. You do not mistake mercy for weakness, but you do not give it where it invites exploitation. You choose fairness when it strengthens structure and severity when it protects it. This makes you appear cold to those who live emotionally, but predictable kindness is easily abused. You have learned to be selectively humane. This is one of the hardest lessons because it requires abandoning the desire to be seen as good. You no longer perform goodness. You practice effectiveness with conscience. This is adult morality. Childish morality seeks approval. Adult morality seeks sustainability. You are now operating as a long-term actor. You think about second and third order consequences instinctively. You do not celebrate prematurely. You do not despair theatrically. You maintain equilibrium because equilibrium gives you time, and time gives you options. Options are power. You also recognize that identity itself has become fluid. You do not describe yourself rigidly anymore. You are not attached to labels, archetypes, or narratives. You are attached to function. Whatever role produces advantage and alignment, you step into it without internal resistance. This makes you adaptable without becoming inconsistent. You change form without changing core direction. This terrifies rigid people. They rely on you staying the same so they can plan around you. You refuse that gift. You remain principled but flexible, anchored but mobile. This is the final insulation against destruction. Others can only destroy what they can define. You have made yourself difficult to define. You are not hiding. You are simply not presenting a stable target. And because of this, attacks dissipate. Manipulation fails. Pressure reveals its limits. You do not win through confrontation. You win through positioning and endurance. You outlast storms because you do not chase calm. You build stability. This is why the rebirth never truly ends. You continue shedding inefficiencies, illusions, and unnecessary attachments as they appear. You treat yourself as an evolving system, not a finished product. This keeps you sharp, humble in method, and ruthless with weakness. You do not fear becoming alone, misunderstood, or uncelebrated, because you have already separated self-worth from audience reaction. You are no longer trying to be admired. You are trying to remain sovereign, and sovereignty is quiet, disciplined, and deeply unglamorous, but it works. It always works. If you recognize this level of self-containment, if you feel the compression rather than the leakage, confirm it now by commenting, "I hold my power inward." Before we go any further, subscribe, turn on notifications, and lock in. This final phase is where rebirth stops being theory and becomes permanent control. Number 10. Beyond rebirth, permanent inner command. There comes a point where even rebirth itself becomes invisible to you, where you no longer think in terms of transformation because transformation has become default. You stop measuring progress emotionally and start sensing alignment structurally, like a machine running smoothly under load. You no longer ask whether you are strong. You observe whether you are stable. This is a deeper metric. Strength can surge and collapse. Stability endures. At this stage, you are no longer fighting your past self or proving distance from it. Indifference replaces conflict. The old patterns surface occasionally, but they feel foreign, like echoes from a life that no longer belongs to you. You do not panic when they appear, because panic belongs to men who fear regression. You understand that awareness dissolves relapse faster than resistance ever could. You correct course without drama. You adjust quietly and continue forward. This is mastery without ceremony. You also stop fantasizing about future versions of yourself. Fantasies leak energy. You operate in execution mode. Today's discipline is tomorrow's leverage, and you treat this as law, not motivation. You respect boredom, repetition, and restraint because you have learned that consistency outperforms intensity in every domain that matters. You do not seek constant stimulation. Stimulation weakens focus. You prefer depth. You prefer fewer inputs, fewer words, fewer obligations. Minimalism becomes psychological, not aesthetic. You remove anything that dilutes command. People around you may sense calm or distance, but what they are really sensing is absence of internal friction. You are not torn between impulses. You are not negotiating with weakness. You have simplified yourself down to function. This is why external chaos feels less invasive now. Noise passes through you without sticking. Praise slides off. Criticism dissolves. You are no longer building identity out of reaction. You are living from internal order. And once a man reaches this state, destruction becomes unlikely, not because he is protected, but because there is very little left to destabilize.